Germany's economy keeps breaking records, yet ordinary Germans keep feeling poorer every single year. That sentence sounds contradictory, but the data behind it is painfully consistent. Germany remains one of the largest economies on the entire planet. Its exports, its industry, and its overall GDP continue climbing year after year. On paper, this looks like a story of endless national success. But walk into any ordinary German household, and the story sounds completely different. Wages feel tighter, savings feel smaller, and the future feels less certain than before. So how can a country grow richer while its own people feel financially squeezed? That contradiction is exactly what this video is going to break down. Let's start with the headline number everyone keeps hearing about: GDP growth. GDP measures the total value of everything a country produces in a year. A rising GDP is usually treated as proof that everyone is doing better. But GDP says nothing about how that growth actually gets distributed among real people. A country can grow significantly while most of that growth flows to a small group. In Germany, a growing share of corporate profits has outpaced growth in average wages. Large companies have reported record profits even during years of economic uncertainty. Meanwhile, average real wages, adjusted for inflation, have grown far more slowly. Real wages measure what your paycheck can actually buy, not just its number. When prices rise faster than wages, your paycheck quietly buys less every single month. This is the first hidden gap between national wealth and personal wealth. The economy expands, but the average household's purchasing power barely moves forward. Now let's talk about inflation, because this is where the squeeze becomes painfully real. Inflation in Germany surged dramatically following the energy crisis of recent years. Energy prices spiked sharply after supply disruptions hit European markets hard. Heating costs, electricity bills, and fuel prices all climbed at the same time. Grocery prices followed quickly, as transportation and production costs rose across the board. For a few painful years, prices rose faster than most people's salaries could keep up. Even after inflation slowed down, prices never actually went back to where they were before. They simply stopped rising as quickly, while staying permanently higher than before the crisis. This means the cost of everyday life in Germany is now structurally more expensive. Many households adjusted by cutting small comforts rather than essential needs. Restaurant visits, vacations, and small luxuries quietly disappeared from many monthly budgets. This is what economists call a stealth decline in real living standards. It does not feel like a single dramatic crisis, it feels like constant quiet pressure. Now let's look at housing, because this is where the squeeze hits hardest. Rents in major German cities have climbed dramatically over the past decade. Munich, Berlin, Hamburg, and Frankfurt have all seen rental prices surge sharply. New housing construction has consistently failed to keep pace with population growth. Limited supply, combined with strong demand, pushes prices upward almost automatically. A growing share of monthly income now goes directly toward rent alone. Decades ago, spending a third of income on rent was considered a reasonable guideline. Today, many renters in major cities spend far more than that guideline suggests. This leaves a shrinking share of income available for saving or investing. Buying property has become even harder for an entire generation of younger Germans. Property prices in desirable cities have risen much faster than average wages. Mortgage rates also climbed sharply after years of historically low interest rates. The combination of higher prices and higher rates pushed homeownership further out of reach. Many younger Germans now expect to rent indefinitely, rather than ever owning property. This shift quietly changes how an entire generation builds long-term wealth. Owning property has historically been one of the primary ways German families built equity. Without that path, building comparable wealth requires a completely different financial strategy. Now let's talk about taxes, because Germany's tax burden plays a significant role here. Germany has one of the higher overall tax burdens among wealthy nations. Income tax, social contributions, and additional levies combine into a substantial deduction from every paycheck. A meaningful portion of every euro earned never actually reaches the worker's pocket. This funds strong public services, but it also reduces disposable income significantly. When wages rise modestly, a portion of that rise often gets absorbed by higher tax brackets. This effect is sometimes called bracket creep, and it quietly shrinks the benefit of raises. A worker can receive a raise and still feel barely any financial improvement. This combination of taxes and bracket creep adds another layer to the squeeze. Now let's bring energy costs back into focus, because their impact runs deeper than headlines suggest. Germany's shift away from cheaper energy sources increased costs across nearly every industry. Manufacturing companies faced higher production costs, which often get passed along to consumers. Higher production costs can also slow hiring and wage growth across affected industries. This creates a ripple effect that touches far more than just household energy bills. Even industries unrelated to energy directly feel the pressure through higher overall costs. This is one reason why economic growth and personal financial comfort can diverge so sharply. Now let's examine wealth inequality, because this gap has been quietly widening for years. A small percentage of German households hold a disproportionately large share of total wealth. Stock ownership, business ownership, and significant property holdings remain concentrated among a smaller group. Meanwhile, a large share of the population holds little in stocks or significant assets. This means market gains and corporate profit growth benefit a relatively concentrated group most directly. The broader population experiences economic growth mainly through prices and costs, not through asset gains. This asymmetry helps explain why national growth and personal financial improvement often disconnect. When asset prices rise, asset owners get wealthier without necessarily working any harder. When wages rise slowly, workers without significant assets barely feel any improvement at all. Over time, this gap compounds, just like investment returns compound for those holding assets. Now let's talk about demographic pressure, because Germany's aging population adds another layer of strain. Germany has one of the older average populations among major global economies. A shrinking working-age population must support a growing number of retirees. This pressure shows up directly in pension contributions and Social Security funding. Higher contribution requirements quietly reduce take-home pay for the current working generation. This demographic shift is structural, meaning it will not resolve itself quickly or easily. It adds long-term pressure on wages, taxes, and government budgets simultaneously. Now let's look at corporate behavior, because profit distribution plays a meaningful role here too. Many large companies have prioritized shareholder returns alongside record profits in recent years. Dividends and stock buybacks have grown significantly within many major corporations. Meanwhile, wage growth within those same companies has often grown far more slowly. This is not unique to Germany, but it intensifies the squeeze felt by ordinary workers. Profits flowing to shareholders do not automatically translate into higher wages for employees. This dynamic quietly widens the gap between corporate success and personal financial improvement. Now let's connect all of this back to the original contradiction we started with. Germany's economy can absolutely grow while most individual households barely feel that growth. GDP growth, corporate profits, and stock market gains primarily benefit asset owners and large companies. Inflation, rent increases, and tax burdens primarily impact ordinary wage earners directly. These two forces can move in completely different directions at the exact same time. This is precisely why national wealth and personal wealth are not the same story. A country can break economic records while millions of its citizens feel financially squeezed. This is not a uniquely German problem, but Germany shows the pattern with striking clarity. So what does this actually mean for an ordinary person trying to build wealth here? Understanding this gap is the first step toward protecting yourself within it. Relying purely on wage growth alone has become an increasingly fragile financial strategy. Wages move slowly, while costs, taxes, and asset prices often move much faster. This is exactly why building personal assets matters more than ever in this environment. Owning even a small slice of the stock market shifts you from spectator to participant. A diversified ETF portfolio allows ordinary people to benefit from corporate profit growth directly. Without owning assets, rising corporate profits never personally benefit the average household at all. This single shift from saver to investor is one of the most powerful financial moves available. It does not require large sums of money or special financial expertise to begin. A simple automated monthly ETF contribution starts connecting your finances to broader economic growth. Over time, this connection compounds, slowly closing part of the gap discussed throughout this video. Reducing exposure to inflation also matters significantly within this broader picture. Cash sitting idle in low-interest accounts steadily loses value as prices rise. Shifting a portion of savings into productive assets helps offset inflation's quiet erosion. Housing decisions also deserve careful thought within this same broader financial strategy. Renting is not inherently a financial failure, despite common assumptions about homeownership. The key question is whether the difference between renting and owning gets actively invested elsewhere. Many renters who invest consistently can match or exceed the wealth of property owners over time. The danger lies in renting without investing, leaving no asset building happening at all. Reducing unnecessary lifestyle inflation also becomes more important within a higher cost economic environment. Every euro not spent on status symbols can instead strengthen long-term financial security. This does not mean living without enjoyment, it means being deliberate about where money flows. Understanding tax rules also helps preserve more of every euro earned through work or investing. Small inefficiencies in tax planning quietly compound into meaningful losses over many years. None of these individual strategies can reverse a national economic trend on their own. But together, they can meaningfully improve one household's position within that larger trend. This is the core takeaway hiding underneath this entire economic contradiction. Germany's national growth and your personal growth are connected, but they are not identical. Without deliberate action, national prosperity can pass right by an individual household entirely. With deliberate action, an individual household can still benefit even within a challenging broader environment. The economy moving forward does not automatically pull every household forward along with it. Only ownership, strategy, and consistency reliably connect personal finances to broader economic growth. This is why understanding these mechanics matters far more than simply hearing headline GDP numbers. The headline tells you the country is growing. It never tells you who that growth actually benefits. That distinction is exactly what separates households that quietly fall behind from those that quietly get ahead. And once you understand that distinction clearly, you can finally start positioning yourself on the right side of it. This pattern is not new, but it has become far more visible in recent years. Social media now constantly compares lifestyles, making the squeeze feel even more personal and urgent. Many people quietly assume they are simply managing money worse than everyone else around them. In reality, structural forces explain far more of this squeeze than personal financial mistakes do. That does not mean individual choices stop mattering, it means context matters too. Understanding the bigger picture removes unnecessary guilt while still encouraging smarter personal decisions. Financial education rarely gets taught clearly in schools, leaving most people to learn this far too late. This is exactly why breaking down these mechanics matters, rather than repeating vague advice. Numbers without context feel abstract, but numbers explained clearly become genuinely useful. The goal of this video was never to create fear about Germany's economy. The goal was to explain why national success and personal success can quietly diverge. Once that gap becomes visible, it stops feeling confusing and starts feeling solvable. That shift, from confusion to clarity, is often the real turning point for most people.